Time to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. And with me in the studio is strategy consultant and public affairs analyst Dikbo Ewole. Dikbo, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Great. And we also have our analyst in the house as well, Obani Akinwale. Obani, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Glad to be here.
Great.
Yeah.
Now let's begin with Blueprint newspaper now. Blueprint says NBA CONFAB. NBA CONFAB. Northern Muslim lawyers opposed El-Rufai's invitation. Ozekhome is reported as saying this and says Reverend Father to other Christian members okayed governor's choice. And NBA has lost focus. Akintola is saying this. Association descended to the realm of bias. El-Rufai is saying that. And Kaduna Bauchi Muslim lawyers kick. Invitation would afford NBA to grill governor. Sanusi is saying that. So it's still a fallout from the suspension of the invitation of the governor of Kaduna State. Okay, that's the Blueprint. Let's go to Daily Times. Daily Times newspaper says Anxiety, Hope, Trail Power Initiative. Anxiety, Hope, Trail Power Initiative. Let's go now to the Leadership newspaper. States unveil policies on community policing. Governors constitute committees, say we're on same page with the federal government, and police rearrest suspected Oyo serial killer. Okay, this is an interesting topic that we could look at. States unveil policies on community policing. All right, from there, let's go to the national economy. National economy says the private sector to ramp up investment towards bridging 22 million housing deficit. Housing should be private sector driven. Estate developers are saying this. Well, this topic will also interest a lot of Nigerians as well. Private sector to ramp up investment towards bridging 22 million housing deficit. All right, let's see how this goes. News Direct is next now. Commercial banks borrowing from CBN shrink by 30.12%. Commercial banks borrowing from CBN shrinks by 30.12%. Then let's go to Daily Trust. Daily Trust is saying that tanker fire kills 207, injures 221 in 3 years. And fake spare parts, bad roads, recklessness trigger inferno. Nupeng is saying this. What we are doing to check accidents. The Federal Road Safety Corps is saying that. Okay, that's Daily Trust. Let's look at Business AM, which is the last one we're looking at now. Power discos rip off electricity consumers amid COVID-19 pains. Power discos rip off electricity consumers amid COVID-19 pains. Turn postpaid unmetered customers to cash cow. Calls mounts to break discos monopoly. And politically militarily exposed persons own discos. All right, these are all issues on the Business AM. And opposed Fashola who managed to bring in MAPS. As a MAPS is the new scheme that is meant to provide prepaid meters. All right, gentlemen, let's look at the story on housing, which a lot of Nigerians will. The story on the leadership is on the community policing is also very interesting. But let's start with this issue on the national economy that talks about housing. And estate developers are saying that housing should be private sector driven. If you look at Lagos, for instance, you will see that so many housing estates here and there, especially the new ones, you know, with scheme where people can pay over time and all of that. Dick, well, let me start with you here. We still have a lot of deficit in housing. Yes. And we see a lot of skyscrapers, lots of houses built, a lot of them empty, yes. No one is in there. How do we reconcile this?
Well, it is very hard to reconcile because, I mean, I find it very interesting that the private sector is saying that they have to drive the housing deficit. I mean, like you rightly said, over 22 million, and I believe that that's a conservative number. But that being said, I believe that it is a conversation that it's long overdue to be had because it's a serious challenge that we're having. Because like you said, we have a lot of buildings all around Lagos that are empty and
even Abuja.
Even Abuja, yeah. and they're empty, and then you're wondering what's going on. But this much I will say, that it be a partnership between the government and the private sector. This is why I say that a few years ago I saw a news report on a cable news network that in South Korea, at some point they discovered that in the last 10 years the population had grown by 5 million. And then the minister in charge of housing and urban development, he was such in a panic during the interview that when they realized they had grown by 5 million in 10 years, they had to ask certain questions about the road network, about the housing. And then they said they put certain schemes in place. They were deliberate about it. They partnered with the private sector. Okay. Interestingly, we're not seeing such urgency happening right now in Nigeria. Okay. So the question is, what is the government doing? What's the private sector doing? All right.
When Abuja was being constructed, the Gwarimpa housing estate was mapped out, beautifully constructed with the great vision, and it was seen to be one of the, I think, the largest single estate in West Africa, housing estate in West Africa. But Nigerians were thinking that that would be replicated in parts of the country, you know, as a way of creating house or making housing available. But this is not the case.
So I don't want us to look at the symptoms of what we are seeing, but let's look at the bedrock of the issue. If you go back to 1979-83, during Babake Kereste, no, that is Alhaji Lateef Jakonde, there is something you call low-cost housing. And these low-cost housing were affordable for civil servants. Now, what you find out these days is that, do you have low-cost cement? Do you have low-cost iron? Do you have low-cost masonries? Or do you even have manpower locally to build those structures? So you find out that most times we get people from Togo, from Benin Republic, or to get this job done. Then vis-a-vis, marry a bag of cement with the minimum wage of a worker in Nigeria. So if the government is highest employer of labor, it shows that government traditionally should provide highest number of housing in the state for its workers. Now you find out that as the highest employer of labor, they cannot even provide them with a living wage. Now, if you cannot provide somebody with something that will sustain just a family of two, you wonder how that person wants to build a facility. And I recall I was in a meet gathering when Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was saying a couple of years ago that because of the land mass in Lagos, Lagos should grow vertically. And you find out that in Sena Climb, government come together with the landowners to build structure in such a way that you have a two-bedroom flat at the bottom floor, the owner of the property owns it. Government builds another structure so that people can own those houses. But you ask yourself, how much are these properties? If you go to the island of Lagos, you see houses in terms of 10 million, 15 million, and you ask yourself, what is the salary of people that are going to get this job? So that's why you find out that what happened is that the rich in the society discovered that land is the only, housing is the only asset that doesn't depreciate. Over time, it appreciates. So what you find out with them is that everybody wants to amass this housing property to at least in terms of their wealth, because as an African man, traditionally, the number of houses you have shows how affluent or whatever you are. So the problem is not about, it's about the system itself. Until either private workers, civil workers begin to have living wage, we will continue to have this deficit because there's no low-cost cement, there's no low-cost iron, there's no low-cost masonry, no low-cost roofing sheet. Then there is no way we'll be able to mitigate if the government did not create enabling environment and palliative to ensure that what people are taking is comparable.
All right, let's head straight to the papers, and I begin with the blueprint. NBA CONFAB, Northern Muslim lawyers opposed to El-Rufai's invitation. Ozekhome. Right now, we'll move to the front page of the Daily Times. Anxiety, Hope, Trail Power Initiative. On the front page of the Leadership newspaper, states unveil policies on community policing. Governors constitute committees, say we are on same page with federal government. We'll be looking at that story very shortly. All right, now we'll move to the front page of the national economy. Private sector to ramp up investments towards bridging 22 million housing deficit. Housing should be private sector driven, real estate developers speaking there. And to the front page of the News Direct, commercial banks borrowing from CBN shrink by 30.12%. On the front page of the Daily Trust, tanker fire kills 207, injures 221 in 3 years. All right, finally now, on the front page of the Business AM, power discos rip off electricity consumers amid COVID-19 pains. All right, let's head back to the front page of the Leadership newspaper, talking about community policing, and states are beginning to unveil policies. The president just recently gave 13 billion naira for community policing, for the kickoff of community policing across the country. And this is to ensure the safety of lives and property across the board. But a lot of Nigerians have been reacting to the monies and how this will be operational, the effective, how it will be, talking about the framework. And a lot of Nigerians, have come back to the studio to you now, I'll start with Yobani Akinwale, are concerned with the framework, talking about if it is going to be operated with the way the police is now, talking about being operated from the center, this, they believe, would not work. I wonder where you stand with regards to this.
I absolutely agree with your last submission that it will never work. Not it would not, it will never. You find out, you have a story whereby the Inspector General of Police has begun the recruitment of about, I think, 1,000 or thereabout number of police constables for different communities in Nigeria. Now, without taking the merit away from the fact that the recruitment will be done at the local levels for people around. But the question again is, a region like Southwest has have their own security outfit called Amotekun. I don't think there is any need for us to recruit another 1,000 constable than the federal government to tap into such initiative and provide them with assistance.
But you would recall that at the time there were some controversies with how they would blend their activities with that of the police force that generated some sort of concerns. Are the lines clearly drawn now? Will we be able to achieve that?
See, the only thing is that sometimes government or the head of affairs want to play to the gallery. You recall vividly that the security of pipelines and other facilities of federal government is under the jurisdiction of Nigerian Civil Defense and Security Corps. And any arrest made by NCDC to date will be handed over to police for further prosecution. I recall that even in Niger Delta, the Nigerian Navy, when they take those culprits for bunkering, they also hand them over to Nigerian police for further prosecution. So the issue of who does what does not come to play. So what we're saying is that it doesn't make any sense for you to have an Amotekun trying to, which is a form of policing, and again you have a central government recruiting thousands of constables to do the same job, replication of fraud. And you recall that there was a time in Lagos where Lagos State have KAI, and federal government has a team they call SHOP. Yeah. There was a time that you find out that they're always combating themselves on the road. So you ask, how do you delineate the responsibility of Amotekun Corps away from the community policing? Then look at it recently what happened in Oyo State, a case of the guy that eloped from the police cells. The police themselves acknowledge the fact that the community people helped them to apprehend the boy. So what we are saying is that we have seen that employing this Amotekun or Ogbunike or civilian JTF is the best way of getting things done, which is domicile or which is being controlled by state government or federal, the state government or the local government. So why recruiting 10,000 police? Why spending? You saw the number of equipment Governor Akeredolu roll out for the Ondo State. So yeah. I expect the federal government to allow the state governors to continue with their form of community policing. There is no way there will not be abuse. Is federal government not abusing the federal police? Is federal government not abusing the federal forces? So there will be level of abuse, but yet the purpose of the security outfit will be all for us to see. So what I'm saying in essence is that we don't need to recruit any 10,000 constables. Let us go with Amotekun, civilian JTF, and let federal government give the necessary backings so that they can help the central police in terms of information and intelligence gathering.
All right, Dikwa, quickly now, the states are beginning to unveil policies on community policing. What should be their role to really ensure the effective implementation of this community policing, seeing that the federal government is being serious at ensuring the security of lives and property with this amount it gave out?
For me, looking at it from the perspective of efficiency, I would expect a lot of community relation go on. Because, I mean, you can't say you're conducting community policing and then you're alienating the community. There should be a lot of community relation going on. There shouldn't be an us versus them perspective to it. So yes, I would expect that a lot of instruments that they're putting in play be geared towards getting a lot of people on their side in terms of understanding how they come into the security apparatus of the various states and how we can get things done efficiently and done with utmost accountability.
But what concerns do you foresee? What challenges do you foresee leading up to this?
Overlapping of roles. I mean, like you rightly said, we've had different governmental agencies perform different duplication of roles, and we're not getting to understand what's going on. But like the question you asked and the answer he gave, yes, we understand that they're supposed to be an intelligence gathering outfit, and as well, if they are able to effect arrest, hand them over to the police. But that's why I said a lot of community relations should come at play. We should liaise with the community, let them understand how they come into the community to understand that the security of lives and property is their utmost responsibility and how they can get to cooperate with them.
All right, Obani, how do we ensure checks and balances? Because you mentioned something about abuse on the long run, but how do we ensure checks and balances? Because that's a major concern Nigerians have. Unfortunately,
we will still call us democratic governance nascent because we are still developing every day. But the fact still remains that as we continue to imbibe this new culture, we're beginning to see the flaws and we're going to make amends. Remember when Kai was there, Lagos State Tried Neighborhood Watch, and NSCDC was there, they were doing regular policing, federal government said they should do this, and over time we're able to fine-tune the activity. How do we stop the abuse? To ensure that various House of Assembly, and that's why I said the constitutional issue, various House of Assembly put in laws in such a way that there won't be extra abuse from the chief security officer. Then again, the appointment of this IGP will be done by the president, but the IGP should not report to presidency. There are two different things. We should institutionalize security. We should not make it that it's a go-to person. But it's a whereby everybody say that IGP is a rubber stamp from the president. They feel that whoever is the Amotekun DG or the commandant-in-chief is also answerable to the governor or the local government chairman who is funding them. Let's institutionalize these things and let us practice it. I know we'll have teething issues. There's no doubt about it. I know over time, our constitution even says it all. We, the people of Nigeria, when we have never started to agree on what we should be, let people of Nigeria now look at it again, how best we can, and like I said, the major thing is that institutionalize it. Don't let us have the biased mind. The reality is that there is no perfect system. So let's look for those imperfect situations and ensure that we sail this smooth slowly. But what is key is key. We need intelligence gathering. We need to be able to map out our areas. We need map within map. And that is job of the community policing. And I hope our government and the governance will put in laws and mayors to ensure that this is done according to law.
Dikbo, your final words here.
Okay, well, regarding community policing, I would expect, like we've been saying for a few minutes now, that there be a lot of sense of accountability, because that is something we've not gotten to see, even in terms of the Nigerian police. And yes, it should be decentralized. The community policing should not be an automatic extension of the police force, even though they are working in concert with them. Because, I mean, so far we've been able to say that the community policing is effective. For example, in Oyo State, like the police said that they were assisted as well in apprehending the serial killer. So yes, it should be, they should work in concert with the Nigerian police, but it should not necessarily be an extension of the Nigerian police, because on some level, a lot of people and a lot of Nigerians have lost a lot of confidence in the Nigerian police. So yes, that may affect their efficiency and it may also affect their performance.
All right, Dikbo Oyewale, Abani Akinwale, gentlemen, thank you for your time on the newspaper review.
Thank you.